Hello, I hope this finds you well. It is a glorious Tuesday morning here in Hertfordshire. It dropped very cold last night, but the sun has come out and it's good. So I did think that I would maybe sit down and talk about knitting, but I think so much has been going on the last week that it would be fun to sit and share that. There's been lots of friendship and a little bit of adventuring, and yeah, very wholesome, lots of wholesome things. I'm wearing a My Secret Summer Crop by Jessie May. This is the fingering weight stockinette one, knitted using the Corner of Craft Hamster Unicorns, a colourway that I really love. It's so much fun. I bought it as a yarn club and then Hannah brought it in as a colour. I'm wearing a Look at My Holes by James N. Watts that I modified to not have any ribbing around the collar, and this is a piece I wear quite a lot. I can't remember, it's spinny wool, I believe, but I can't remember what base it is. And then this is my modified Varpoo cardigan, which is a pattern that I've talked about loads, so I won't go into detail. But to modify it, all I did was divide the front rather than joining the two sides of the shoulders. I did a few extra stitches and a little ribbing band, and I knitted it using, I think, I can never remember and get it right, but I think it's a Drops Nepal maybe, or Nord, something like that, with a their alpaca silk base, and it is just a sweatshirt. I've tried to get comfy cozy without being too like slobby, which I'm sure no one here really minds, but you know, I wanted to get dressed properly today, but comfy cozy. And I did make my little tiny chainmail necklace, which I really want to do more of. It's just finding the time to do so. And yeah, I'm gonna knit on my latest little cast on, and this was inspired purely by, first of all, the yarn. So I'll talk about more about the rest of the yarn in the future, but this is super special because it's part of a little fantasy trash collection, which is by my lovely friend Kelsey, who sent it over through as a kind of, she's celebrating Ramadan gift, like a little just want to give, and I did a little gift like that in the winter, so it was really nice to, well, it's just really exciting. This is based on one of the characters in our D&D campaign. Yeah, again, I'm going to talk about it in the future. And Kelsey is a natural yarn dyer who goes by Knitting Nakabi. So this was all dyed. This was dyed naturally. And then the other base that I've already knitted with is the last in existence of my local to me yarn. So this was a 50% Valet Black Nose, which are the most cute little sheep, and then 50% Jacob, which is one of my favourite breeds, and all the yarn came locally. And I am knitting a half and half wrap. I just really wanted to highlight and show off these gorgeous yarns based on our little D&D group. So I am going to go with quite neutrals on this one side with the pops of colour from lovely Kelsey. I might do a little block of colour at the opposite end. We'll see. And then on the other side I'm just going to do chaos again. So I've pulled out some yarn in colours that kind of go, and I'm just going to do some dice rolling. I have rolled a dice just to see what one of these I started with. I've kind of set them out in an order that I liked most, and then decided what order, like which one I would start with by rolling, because you can't resist a few extra dice rolls. So this is my little comfy cozy knit that is all of friendship. A lot of the other bits of yarn are yarns that I've swapped or been gifted, you know, in like a advent swap we did in December this year. Are we gonna be blessed? You gonna come over here? Yeah. Hey friend. Are you very sweet? Aww. Am I gonna have to be uncomfortable so we can be together? I can't even move it. She's put a little paw on my thigh. Hey, that's really cute. That's really nice. You don't look that happy, but look at that. You're so sweet. You're very sweet. Okay, so if she removes her paw, I'll move it so you can hopefully see her too. Or maybe even need to swap lenses. Anyway, so last year, a lovely friend who I've been talking to online for quite a while now, I guess maybe 2 or 3 years, said that they were going to come to the UK for their honeymoon, which was super exciting. And we kind of thought about how we could make it work so we could see each other for a day or two, do some yarny things. And we did lots of backing and forthing, and we ended up kind of coming to the conclusion that going to Edinburgh for a couple of days and then maybe coming to a sunny old Watford would be a good idea, which was just amazing. And then a lot later on this year, another lovely friend said, Yannicka, said she was going to come to the UK to do the West Highland Way, which is an amazing thing to do, which I would really like to do, and especially having heard about how they did it and how fun it was and tiring it was. I could do with giving it a go, and asked, is there any chance, by any chance, are you going to be in Edinburgh on these dates? And I was kind of like, well, there was no sort of set plan, but that could work. So it kind of all happened, and then I was talking with my lovely DM about my in the week DM, not my weekend DM. Dungeon Master, for those who don't know, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, the person who kind of leads the story. Yes, and I knew that it was Susie's favourite place to be back home, kind of vibes. So I asked if she kind of fancied coming along. Alex wasn't going to be able to take the time off work, so it just kind of felt right to have 6 of us rather than an odd 5. And yeah, with a little bit of planning, we made it happen. So I booked my little train and a little Airbnb. And normally when I go away, I really like to have kind of either know that other people want to lead and have things they want to do, or have a few things so I kind of know, not just what to pack, but like what the vibe's gonna be. And I started a little group for us, and we kind of put in a few ideas. I was obviously going to visit a couple of yarn shops that just felt right, but we ended up not really planning, and it was quite a good lesson for me, and I feel like all of us quite like to generally have a plan of what we're doing, but it was really nice. Like, we just kind of did as and what we felt like. It was a lot more relaxed than it could have been. Like, we could have been marching all across Edinburgh and we could have seen a lot more, but I think anything that happened went right. Like, there was nothing that kind of went wrong at all, which is kind of rare on a trip, especially a trip where you're bringing like 4 different kind of sets of people together almost. There was, So yeah, on Tuesday morning I went to King's Cross station, which isn't too far for me, like a mainline train and then just a short walk, and I went and popped up to see the meeting point, a cute little statue of people kissing, and did a little bit of people watching for a bit because I like to arrive places, especially if I've got a booked train early. Yeah, I got a little seat on the train. I packed some snacks. I did forget to take my sugar snap peas, which I was quite sad about at the time, but it made a great dinner yesterday when we had not much time after work. It just rounded out our meal, so it was kind of a blessing I didn't take them. Oh, you're very sweet. She's just making pudding with one paw. What's that about? I don't know about you, but I really love people watching, especially like a train station. I guess it's a bit like the intro to Love Actually, where he's talking about being at Heathrow Airport. Yeah, and then so I got on my train, I got my seat. It was a lovely seat actually. I had a window seat and it was facing the way we were going, and it had a table, and I just settled into some crafting. I made a little project bag and did some knitting on the train. I finished listening to I think it's just a 2-book series that is a retelling of The Little Mermaid. It was really easy to listen to, really gentle, called The Sea Witch and the Sea Witch Rising. It is a retelling but from the Sea Witch's perspective, and yeah, it was very wholesome. Well, I say wholesome, it was easy, it wasn't like, it was good. It was interesting. It was nice to hear a different perspective and different portrayals of different characters. It was good. And I finished that when I was on the train. And I kind of couldn't decide what I wanted to listen to or read next. And I've got a few recommendations lately. So I have 3 books on the go now. When I got to Edinburgh, it was about a 1.5 mile walk. It wasn't too far to get to my little Airbnb that I booked. Sort of a 10-minute walk to Grassmarket, so not very far out of the way. It was quite loud, but overall it was beautiful. The Airbnb host had put a Tunnock's caramel wafer on my pillow, which is to me, a very Scottish treat, and a bizarre little ceramic pot that had like a thistle and a flag, and it just said Scotland on it, and I was like, I don't want to open it just in case it was like potpourri or something that I was disturbing, but a little pot of Smarties. A nice little touch. Yeah, I had a little roof bedroom. My room was called Squirrel. There was also Hedgehog and Fox, I think. So there was 3 little Airbnb rooms in this one house. And it was quite nice. And then I walked down to meet Suze, who I met at Cold Town House, I think it's called. It's like a brew pub. And initially my brain was a bit wired from being on the train, and I kind of didn't panic order. I had a little browse, and like the first set of taps were all standard beers that you can kind of get all across anywhere. It seemed like Guinness and Carlsberg type things, but I ended up going for one that was like a lemon pale ale, and it had like a hint of lemon sherbetness to it. It was very nice, but quite light. And what we'd totally missed was the huge casks behind the bar. Oh, look at you. She's like rolled over with both paws on me. The big casks that were brewed by Cold Town themselves. So we ended up getting talking. I was like, just discussing beer and if there's anywhere else that we should go. And the bar staff and the bar... Why is that hard today? It's because I'm saying bar staff and bartender all at the same time. The bartender was really, really nice, and I got a bit excited and asked about the local beer a bit, and I don't know how, maybe I was just quite interested because there was one called a mango sour, and it was basically like a mango smoothie that had just had a touch of like a sour fizzy drink put in it. It was really, really sweet, and you couldn't drink very much of it, but I ended up having one of those as well, which was really nice. And yeah, we went and sat outside, which when you sit outside you can see they've got, I'm not sure, I think it's fake wisteria, but it still looks dangerously beautiful. So they've got a big townhouse, and then next to it you've got a bit of grass with trees and Edinburgh Castle. It is a really beautiful place to sit, and then it's also quite nice for people watching, just lots of people just walking past. So that was really, really nice, and I got to spend a little bit of time talking a bit about D&D and our campaign and other campaigns with Suze, and then Jojaneke, I think, just happened to be walking past. Maybe someone more like capable with their phone, which is really exciting. I think I have figured out why my Instagram was giving me really delayed messages, or at least fixed it so it now works. It means that I get notifications, which is a bit, but I now don't get delays with messages, which is good, because when I was on the way to Edinburgh I sent Suze a message, and then her response came through 4 hours later when I was already in Edinburgh. So we used a different means of communication, but that's quite nice. I can now like get messages not 4 days later, because last night, the reason that I changed it was that I got a message through that had arrived Friday afternoon, and it was Monday evening. Like, it's totally fine if it's for fun, like, it is for fun, but you know, when you get messages that are important or like time sensitive, you're like, oh yeah, I've responded straight away, and then you realise that actually you've responded 4 days later. So that's sorted now, which is cool. And yeah, and then Jojaneke came past, and so she joined us with her partner, which was really cool. We had a little chat, and not long after, May and Will showed up. So May and her partner showed up, and that was really nice. So we all just sat, had a beer in the last of the sunshine, and got to know each other. And you know, it could be quite nerve-wracking, and it could be bad when you introduce people together that you've never met in real life, but it was perfect. Everyone had stuff to talk about, everyone had like shared interests, like the conversation meandered and wandered around the table. It was really cool. So that was really a lovely little introduction, and then we decided we all should have food. Went to a little pub for some food. The football was on, so it was quite loud, but didn't feel overwhelming. I think there was enough pubs to sit in along Grassmarket, so that's a really good place to just sit and eat. And it did feel quite touristy, and it is very touristy there, but I guess it's like that for a reason. It was quite nice to just sit there and be able to just meander and nip into anywhere. And then once we had some food, we went a little bit further up Royal Mile to Bow Bar, which is quite a nice little whiskey bar. Lots of wood, lots of printed mirrors on the walls. I love printed mirrors. I have a collection myself that I have on my stairway. They just rest on a little plinth, but I would love to put them on the walls. So that was quite nice, and we just sat and had a little whiskey before we turned in. And again, there was lots more chatting and a bit of giggling, and that was a really nice start to a little trip. On Wednesday morning, we met at Cairngorm Coffee, which is a coffee shop that I have been going to for a while now. I can't resist going there when we go up to Scotland, or Edinburgh in particular. There is a couple of them, and we went to the bigger one, which made a lot more sense, and it was actually a bit easier for everyone to get to. I'll put a link down to it. But it's a really, really lovely, quite big airy space on a corner, so you get quite a lot of sunlight, and there's loads of plants in there. The coffee's very good and the food's very good too. So we kind of all trickled in as and when we kind of woke up and got ready, which was really nice. Again, just a good way of starting it. And lovely Joannika gifted us all a little coaster each. Got my one here. May used her coaster and then forgot to take it with her, which was quite funny. As we were all fueled up on a little bit of coffee and ready to go, we went on a little walk. We went up to Cathy's Knits. In the process, we stopped in a lovely little bookshop called Typewronger, who started out in a telephone box from what they said. Really, really lovely shop. Lots of little nooks and like Aladdin's cave style, and a really beautiful collections of books. There was a particular series by Collins that I would love to have purchased for Alex, but couldn't. Quite pricey, and too right they should have been, but it was a beautiful collection. Then it had like Wildlife of the Highlands, Moths of Britain, Birds of Britain, like really beautiful books. And on the way out, the owner gave a little typewritten list to May's partner, which was really sweet, of different bookshops to go to. And like, yeah, it was really, really nice. It was a very good experience. And if you want kind of workshops on screen printing or typewriting or creative writing, it looks like a really, really lovely place to visit. And they put on quite a lot of fun things. It was really owned by a really lovely soul, and 10 out of 10 recommend a visit there. We then just wandered in the sunshine. We actually went further than we needed to in the sun, but that was good. It was just nice to be lost in conversation and just walking. And we went to Cathy's Knits, which again is a really lovely shop. It is tucked downstairs, so it doesn't get very much natural light, but it does have quite big windows that let a little bit of light in. Oh, sorry, Audrey, took you on a little wiggle there. As soon as you go in, just as you turn left, there is a sofa with a coffee table with just oodles of knitting books and magazines, and on top of it was the Journal of Scottish Yarn, and I think most of us were immediately drawn to it because it is a lovely publication, and for Joannika and May it's quite hard to get that without paying a bit of money, extra money. We had a little chat about it, and Cathy was telling me about how it was started. I was like, I know Susan, and she's amazing. And then we had a little chat, and then she was like, you know, I modelled your top, and I was like, I know you did. I'm embarrassed, but it was really cool. And she said it was a lot of fun, and had a little giggle about how they were styling it in so many different ways. And I think that was partly because before I sent over the finished item, the little tabard, I took some photos myself and showing Susan how kind of versatile it could be, you know, using it as just a scarf or tying it up or not tying it up or tying it in the back. Like, it was quite versatile, and then they went all in and like, yeah. So they had a lot of fun styling it, which was really nice to hear about actually in real life. I didn't make any purchases. I had already tried the yarn that I wanted to try the most. I knitted a hat using Cathy's own, I think it's a Wensleydale base, when I went up to Edinburgh to see a band called the Twilight Sad. And I thought about purchasing a little bit of that yarn again, just because it's really lovely. It's held up so well. It's very hard wearing, and the colour palette is the beautiful heathered thistle colours really, and that's kind of what inspired her to use that colour palette. So I didn't bring any of that back. I did think about it, and Blacker Yarns had a particularly beautiful slimy green that I was almost tempted by, but I didn't in the end. It matched Sue's nails perfectly, so she bought a skein of that, which was really cool to see. There was also quite a cool collection of Alice in Wonderland knits that had been made for Cathy's brother, I believe, and they weren't allowed to play with them, which is why they look as beautiful as they do, apart from when they were being read Alice in Wonderland, and they'd sit and hold them when the story was being read, which is really quite a cute little insight. And then we did what any British person would do and went to the pub. We popped in just to hydrate, refresh ourselves, sit down for a little bit. I had a lovely half of a Scott Heavy Ale, which was really nice. And then we got going again. We ended up realising we were quite hungry, but we pressed on and walked to Ginger Twist. And it wasn't until we were en route there that I kind of remembered how tiny it was, and reminded and like let everyone know. And everyone's kind of like, nah, it'll be fine. I was like, it'll be fine, but it might be like a one in, one out situation. But we did get there, and there was one person just paying, I believe, if I remember rightly. And then the four of us who were knitters went inside, and the shop was full. But it's not, just because it's small does not mean it's not stocked. They have so many beautiful places, and like a real good mix of nice hand-dyed yarn and then more commercial, affordable yarns, and slightly fancier, well-made, more affordable yarns, if that makes sense. So it was really nice to have a little look through the bases and give things a squish in real life. So I ended up purchasing, I really wanted to buy just a skein of Jess's hand-dyed, just, you know, it's special, and I wanted to buy a base that I hadn't seen before rather than something that I knew I could get locally with ease and would know what it is. If you know, if I'm ordering a skein of mohair silk, generally I've got an understanding of what it will be like. But I ended up buying a skein of, show you the ball. Here she is. Hello. It is a blend of alpaca, silk and linen, so perfect for summer, and I wanted something a bit brighter. I'm really enjoying the black and something and bright pops of colour at the moment. I've gone for this. It's beautiful. It is almost yellow. To me it did read like more like bright grass green, but it is like a slightly veering more yellow than I had in my head. But I really love it. I'm really surprised. It reminds me of kind of cat eyes, or weirdly, and maybe to my own not good comparison, but on the trains in London, or at least from my house to central London, there is like little neon LED light up displays, and this is like the colour. So I don't know that that's a good comparison and a good thing, but I really like it. And I ended up caking it up on the train, well, ball winding it, I guess, on the train home, because I actually ran out of knitting. I finished the one project that I had on the way up, and then got to a point on Alex's alpha male where I really wanted him to try it on before I carried on. So I ended up casting on, and this will maybe be something like either the Heya Tank by Kiyomi Bergin, I believe it is, or the Ghost Whisperer by Park and Knit. Something in that wheelhouse. I did do a little swatch when I was on the train, and I only had these needles, which I think 4mm, yeah, spare. So I ended up going with the 4mm in the end, and I liked the fabric. I did check on a 3.5, but I felt like I kind of wanted it to be for summer. So, and I think it's a top that I will want to wear something under it because it's going to be a bit oversized. So I cast on, and what I'm going to do is give it a little block and just get a really good idea of my gauge now I've done this much, and then adjust it from there, which is kind of a backwards way of working, but I really just wanted to knit, so if I've got to undo it, that's fine. But it feels so good. It's so soft, and it does feel cool to the touch. It's lovely. So I'm quite excited to carry on working on that, but for another day. One of the lovely thing about going to a yarn shop with other people, especially people like the four of us, all have similarities but all have such a different style and way of dealing with colour, that it was really nice to see that process. May is a screen printer, which is amazing, and seeing her work with colour is wild. It's a really cool and fun experience. Thank you, May, for showing us your little wizardry. Yannicka has like this beautiful, I just feel like she's autumn. Beautiful autumn vibes, and seeing those colours come together as well was like, the mohair. Anyway, that was really fun, and then we ended up just going for a little wander in search of a snack and taking ourselves to a little pastry shop that had cursed Mr. Blobby biscuits, and having to explain who Mr. Blobby was interesting. And we went to just a little park that had quite a nice mural, sat and watched the pigeons, did a bit of knitting. For nearly an hour, actually, we all just sat on the floor and chatted, knitted, and ate our snacks. And then did a little bit of stretching because we were all getting a bit older and we needed to stretch out our bodies if we're going to sit on the floor for that long. I am a floor dweller. I sit on the floor a lot of the time. Don't I? You join me. In fact, you tend to just sit on the sofa looking at me like I'm a bit of a weirdo. Yeah, once we were done watching the pigeons, we walked up through the town back towards kind of the area we were going. Suze was meeting a friend for dinner, and she looked at me because I said the D word. You know, you've already had 2 meals today. Yeah, and en route we actually found Dunbar Gardens, which is a little gardens that I've been meaning to go to for quite a while. Kakibot, who is an Edinburgh local that does kind of YouTube videos every few months talking about, you know, street food places that have opened, coffee shops that have opened, good restaurants to go to, where it's best to try haggis, those sort of videos. I've mentioned it in like I can't remember what video. I think it was like Quiet Spots of Edinburgh or something video. I was like, that looks so stunning. And we kind of stumbled upon it. We saw a sign. I was like, I feel like I know what this is, but it didn't click. and then we went in and it was beautiful. We did a bit of frolicking, a little bit of David Attenboroughing, watching some insects, and it was really nice hearing everyone kind of calling out different plants that they knew and loved. So that was really nice, just a beautiful little spot if you want to sit and knit for a bit, or just calm after a little bit of hill walking around Edinburgh. It's a really nice spot to go to. Then we went to a little craft market. I can't remember the name of it. It's inside kind of an old church, I think. An old chapel type area. Really, really lovely. A lot of gorgeous artists. I wanted to support quite a lot of them, and unfortunately I couldn't. But in particular, there was a lovely embroidery artist that I've got the details of, that I will find her business card and put that down below. And a gorgeous illustrator, painter that had prints of their watercolour. They're all very cute, like puffins and squirrels and things like that. So that was really cool. That was a really good little spot if you are into crafts. We then sat in a pub while Suze only had a short time before she went off to dinner, and we kind of had to think about where we wanted to go to dinner, so it was a perfect little stop again. And they actually had the whiskey that Alex went and helped, like he brewed and learnt from their distillery at Springbank, it's called, in Campbelltown, and they had that on the menu, so I was going to have one of them. And I think my exact words were like, there's no way they have that, but if they do, that's amazing. And it turns out they didn't, but they had another one by the same distillery called Kilkerran. Why did that come out weird too? It's because I was talking on my own for a while rather than talking with someone, which has been really lovely the last few days. So it was a really nice whiskey anyway, and we sat and did a bit of knitting and did a bit of chatting again while we decided where we wanted to go for dinner. And we kind of all at that point had managed to share, or at that point shared stories on eating habits, like, and it's quite funny that most of us said that we kind of like small plates and tapas style meals, but that can be really hard with other people, especially when people you don't know or people you feel like you have to be overly polite with. And I was like, yep, back in the day, like, say, being a vegetarian and having tapas with a mix can be quite difficult, and then making it quite difficult to have enough, especially when usually if you go as like a 6, they'll put 5 of something on a plate and you're like, well, someone's missing out. So I always think that's weird, but most people had had a decent sized breakfast. I ended up going for something that I would never normally go for. I think it was like a pepito, so like a sweetened chocolate filled croissant type situation, which is not enough for me for breakfast. But it's just what I fancied at the time. We were all quite hungry, and I had mentioned an Indian restaurant that I really quite enjoyed last time I visited. So, and after some backing and forthing, we decided to go there, only for me to go to the bathroom, and in the meantime the waitress be like, by the way, this is basically small plates for sharing. And luckily at that, like, we'd already discussed, no, if we're ordering, we'll order for ourselves and share if we really feel like we want to. And because everyone had had different sized meals throughout the day, it was really good because we could order more or less depending on how we were feeling. And it was really good. I had a masala chai because I wanted a little bit of coziness. and a little bit of a pep to my step, because at that point I was starting to get a little bit sleepy. And I had buttered paneer, a chana bhaji that came with like all of quite a few different sauces, like a lime pickle, that kind of thing, and a peshwari naan, because apparently I just wanted to order pudding. And that was a really nice way to kind of finish being out for the day. And we thought about going and sitting in another pub for a bit, but in the end, luckily May had a really nice space in her hotel with a sofa and things, so we actually ended up just spending the evening knitting and chatting until we all wanted to go to bed, which was really wholesome again. It's just very wholesome. I recently rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy with Alex, and you know, when it's fresh in your head, friendship just makes you emotional and you just love it, you just want it, and it was that. It just almost made me cry just seeing lovely people that I've, you know, known for either quite a few years or not even like 6 months, 7 months, all getting along so nicely, all having wholesome little chats. It just almost made me tear a couple of times. And then once that was done, I walked home and had a little snooze. For that morning, I had a coffee and avocado on toast, which I haven't had in a long time, which was a real treat, especially with like the chili flakes and the microgreens you get in Cairngorm Coffee. And it was just me and Suze that went there that morning. I walked along the canal a little bit to get there, which was particularly nice. I did think about stopping and suggesting maybe we went to a different place, but it was imperative that we got the coaster back, and luckily they did have it. It was quite odd asking the barista, you know, excuse me, did you happen to find a coaster here yesterday? Like, we're casually bringing our own coasters to use because they don't have coasters there. But he said he'd just taken it downstairs when I asked, so he went and got it for us, which was a relief. Returned the coaster. And then we decided we'd go to the National Gallery for a little art moment in the morning, which was really, really nice actually. It's not too large and quite lovely to walk around. I haven't looked at art since I went to the National Portrait Gallery in December. It was quite nice to go and see some, and which actually isn't that long ago, but it was really nice to see some. What are you doing? And actually talk to someone that knows a lot more about art than I do about it. Really some beautiful pieces. Again, 10 out of 10 recommend. It's going to expand quite a bit. I think they've got 3 times the amount of space on its way. So that will be interesting to see that next time we visit and how different it will be. And once we went there, we went to Lowdown Coffee, which is another nice coffee shop. It's really quite nice. It's like Cathy's and it's in a downstairs basement. So it is downstairs, which is a bit, you know, a little bit darker than some of like light and airy coffee shops, but it's quite cosy, especially if the weather's not as good as it was. We got so lucky with the weather. Most of us came back with a little bit of a tan or sunburn, which doesn't happen in Scotland. May and Will in particular got. So we went there. I've been there before. I really like the style of coffee that they tend to do, and it's got a very clean open feel, considering how small it is. It has no real counter, so the staff just walk around the space, which I think if I was the staff I'd be a bit like, oh, I don't know about, but that gives it a really nice feel. I had a little Earl Grey, which was actually blended by Alex, which I don't know, you should go all the way to Edinburgh to have a tea that you could have at home, but it was really nice. It was served beautifully and it went very well with my slice of lemon drizzle cake, which is a real treat actually, to just sit and have tea and cake and knit with other people. And then at that point Yannicka came back and we went for a little walk. We were all getting a little bit hungry. I had just had my cake, which was quite large, so I just got a snack and kind of figured out what I wanted for my dinner. And we sat by Scott's Monument in the park, and it was that point that May and Will finished their shopping, so they came and visited us and kind of gave us a little tour of what they'd bought for who of their friends and why they'd bought it, which was really fun. A little insight into their kind of friendships, and I don't know why I find that stuff so lovely, but I do. And we really just sat in the sun for quite a while, just chatting. Rather than running around trying to fit more things in, we just relaxed. Our train left at, I think it was around 4:30, so we didn't want to go too far. Everyone needed to collect their bags. I'd taken my bag because my Airbnb was a little bit further from the station, and I didn't want to have to feel like I had to rush around, so I carried it around with me for the day. And then when everyone went off to get their rucksacks and bags, I just picked up some snacks for the train, my little dinner, and sat in the sunshine listening to a cover band play, which was really nice. We could hear the bagpipes the entire time we were in the park, which was also really lovely, just a gentle reminder that you're actually in Scotland. So they're all really, I think everything we did was the right amount. We could have fit more in and seen more, but I think especially when you're meeting people that you've got so much to talk about, there wasn't really too many quiet moments. You kind of need a little bit less so that you can chat properly. It did feel a bit more like we'd just moved to the town and were just settling rather than had never met before. It was really nice. So I feel really full of gratitude and joy, and I couldn't be more grateful. Like, in life often things go wrong, but I feel like for that Edinburgh trip nothing went wrong. I'd packed correctly, I had enough layers, I had enough entertainment even if I needed to wind a cake of yarn, but that's great. I was very grateful that I could purchase a skein of yarn. Thank you, Alex. Like everything went good. There was no terrible meals, there was no calamities with travelling. Yeah, hopefully that's a good sign for the year to come. A little bit less stressful than previous years. So I'm feeling very grateful, and I just love friendship and connections. Having read quite a few books on the importance of human connection last winter, I feel like I've really leant in and learnt from it. I know I've mentioned it and discussed it a little bit before, but where I used to see, pillars of health being stress and exercise and food and hydration, and I hadn't really put friendship and connections into those pillars, but I think it's equally as important, and leaning into that now, yeah, feels good. So very grateful. I love my new in real life friends that were online friends, and it's nice to know that can happen more this year, hopefully. and over the coming years. So yes, all that to say, hopefully that was a bit of an insight into a trip to Edinburgh if you are someone that's looking to go or just interested in that kind of thing. Hopefully it helps you feel a bit more confident about meeting pals safely who you've known online, and I'm really hoping that there'll be more of that. Next month I've got the pleasure of seeing my lovely pals from Canada again. That was my lovely pals from Canada again who are coming to visit. So hopefully, yeah, like good things. And this was a lot of fun sat knitting on this. With that, I will go and stop waffling and get ready to do some work for the week. I've got the rejuvenation and the excitement to get making, and I'm quite excited to record a normal knitting episode next week. I think I've done some knitting, but I'd like another week before I share it all with you. Yeah, I think that's it. I love you. Make friends, love your friends, cherish your friends, spend time with your friends. It was really nice to not be online, and whilst I really love connecting with everyone, it was nice to just take the time to be present. I barely even spent much time. I was WhatsApping Alex at the end of the day and maybe having a little phone call with him when I was walking somewhere alone, but it was really good to just be present and connect. I love friendship. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. I love you. I hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to love each other.